Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU, presented by FanDuel. I'm Zion Trammell, and I've got Seth Dowdle with me today as we are going to discuss TCU's 35-21 win over Colorado. We do apologize today. This episode's coming out a couple days late. We've been busy traveling and all that, so we're finally getting to it. We're going to talk about this game. Horned Frogs winning this one, again, 35-21 over the Buffaloes. But, Seth, this game was a little bit closer than we thought. We kind of thought TCU was going to roll to this one, but they definitely had to work for it. And you could just say it's life in the Big 12. Nothing's easy.
You could say that if that's, the glass half full view of things. Glass half empty full, view would be that this was a team that TCU should have blown out, or at least, looked more convincing against and, kind of played with their food for 3.5 quarters. But still, they played pretty bad for a good chunk of this game and still covered the spread. So I think that it's one of those things where if you want to view it optimistically, you got to win. It's great, right? I think there's a lot of positives to take from this, which we'll talk about first. Obviously, there's negatives too as we get into this next week against K-State. But you win the football game, you get your first conference win of the year. 4-1 on the season. I'd say that this was so far this year's gone exactly how I thought it would to this point. 4 wins against these teams, a loss to Arizona State. So I guess if you want to view it through that lens, everything's going as planned, Zion.
Yeah, it is. It is technically going as planned. Yeah. But it was a weird game for sure. TCU in Colorado. The Buffaloes turned it over 4 times. TCU did not turn it over at all. And really the play that kind of changed the complexity of it all was that punt that hit the Colorado player, and TCU was able to recover it after an egregious pass interference call on Eric McAllister. As RG3 said it, ball don't lie. Ball don't lie. But it was really good to see TCU finding ways to create turnovers. Jamel Johnson, he's had a great year so far, especially in that category with the turnovers. Bud Clark, I called it. Bud Clark did get his interception. That was a great read. And it was good to see TCU finding ways to create takeaways and give Josh Hoover and the offense as many chances as possible.
Yeah, and they needed it because they were middling for a good chunk of this game. It was the defense causing that chaos that, was allowed TCU to, kind of figure it all out and then, come back in the game. That sequence with less like the 3-minute mark in the second quarter on to the end of the half was just absolutely bananas. TCU scores a touchdown on a QB sneak from Josh Hoover. They get a pick. That makes it 14-7. That's when Bud Clark gets that really awesome pick. He makes a really great read on the play. Caden Salter doesn't even see him, or at least tries to, throw it over his head and then just doesn't get enough air on the ball. And then Bud Clark's able to pick it off. And then TCU scores a touchdown on 2 plays after a great pass from Josh Hoover to Eric McAllister, just right over the shoulder, put it only where he could get it, ties the game. And then This is a sequence that, had this not gone the way that we thought, way that it should have, TCU fan, or the way that it did, TCU fans would have been pulling their hair out. They get Colorado to a 3rd and 9 with 33 seconds left. Colorado runs pretty much a draw, content to go to the half tied, and Dallas Hayden breaks off for a 25-yard run. Then Caden Salter completes a pass to Amarian Miller for 33 yards. Then a pretty bad, I'd say, pass interference call on Vernon Glover. It was not PI. Puts the ball at the TCU 2, and then Caden Salter throws a pick.
That's about summed it up right there.
And that's a pretty key sequence there, because if Colorado scores a touchdown there, or even gets a field goal, they're up 17-14. They got the ball at the start of the third quarter. They ended up punting, but if they were able to double up there, all that momentum that TCU had built in that final 2 minutes of, roaring back and tying the game would have just been snatched away immediately. But Namdi gets the pick and that kind of swings that part of the game. And then obviously TCU is able to score 21 points in the fourth quarter and win. But it was definitely a game of hinge points, and TCU's defense was usually up to the task of getting TCU that crucial play in order to just give the offense enough opportunities, as you said.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch with that, and then of course in this game they really helped out the offense. It was a great game. I think Namdi was I think he was named Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, he had a good game. He had the interception. Obviously, he had a couple tackles for loss. I'm trying to find him on that. He had one sack, tackle for loss, pass deflection, a pick as well. So really good game for him. I think it could have, him and Jamel Johnson had, and Caleb Alonzo also played really well, but Clark obviously got the interception. It was a good day overall from the defense. There were some times where the pass defense. I know you got 3 interceptions, but there were Colorado defenders that were running wide open at times. And Caden Salter, whenever he was able to accurately throw the ball, was finding them. But whenever it mattered most, TCU did not break. And that was, I think, a key that we've seen over the past 2 weeks is that TCU's done a really good job at finding those critical plays at key moments. They couldn't hang on against Arizona State. Like, they tried their darndest to do it, and eventually they just broke because Arizona State was really knocking on the door for probably like 2.5 quarters, and they just couldn't hang on. But in this game, when the offense was actually giving them a little bit of traction, the defense was able to make those big plays, and that was really encouraging.
Jamel Johnson, 10 tackles, the interception. I believe he had a pass breakup that led to that Obiizer interception. Yeah. So those two guys were balling out. Bud Clark. Yeah, the secondary is it looks great at times, and it can also come back to bite you. But they have some really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like reactionary skills. They can, Bud Clark especially, like it feels like there's so many, every single game, Bud Clark is able to read exactly what the quarterback is doing and jump in front of a pass, which I think just shows his experience and how much college football he's actually played, because he's played a lot of it. He easily could have gone in the NFL last year. He came back and wanted to run it back for another year, and it's showing. He's having a good year, and even though he dropped that interception
against
Arizona State, he did drop one.
This might be a bit of a niche comparison, but this secondary reminds me of a lot, and this defense kind of as a whole, just kind of the style of play kind of reminds me a lot of like the Dan Quinn defenses for the Cowboys, where they were turnover merchants. They would give up some really big plays, but man, when they needed a big turnover, they could get it. And like that, especially like Bud Clark gives me a lot of Trevon Diggs vibes, where he's very willing to jump a route and sacrifice a potential 25-yard gain if he misses. But like when he gets the pick, obviously that results in a pick 6 against North Carolina, or that pick 6 against Michigan in 2020 in 2022, right in the Fiesta Bowl. Like he'll jump a route if he wants to, and he'll get aggressive. So it paid off against Colorado, and I'd say so far it's paid off against every team they play. That kind of really aggressiveness, and that's what I want to see out of a TCU defense. I don't want them to be passive. I want them to be aggressive.
I totally agree with you there. It definitely reminds me of that. Jamel Johnson, he could be Deron Bland.
Yeah.
And or J-Ron Curse or something like that.
Yeah,
It definitely gives off that vibe for sure. And look, it's gonna come back to bite you sometimes, but it can also pay off. And I think every single turnover that they created were huge, especially again, you mentioned the Obiizer interception, Jamel Johnson. They were all big plays that changed the complexity of this game and allowed TCU to get a win. So we kind of talked about that. That was going to be huge, and it certainly helped the Horned Frogs in the win. So overall, really, really impressed so far. Andy Avalos this season, I think it looks like this defense has taken a step forward. I think we could safely say that.
Yeah.
Here in 2025,
especially run defense, Colorado averaged 3.6 yards a carry. Like it's pretty bad. Now They were the best rushing team on the field, though. So, like, we'll talk about that in a second. But still, like, last year, it didn't matter who TCU was playing. They were going to average at least 6 yards a carry.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's encouraging. Their run fits are a whole lot better this year. And I think we talked a lot in the offseason that we were looking forward to, like, year 2 of this scheme because the players there wasn't a lot of turnover on defense, right? A lot of those players returned from last year. So hopefully they were able to, get a little bit more comfortable in it. I was a little leery of that because I remember when Joe Gillespie was here, we were talking about year 2 and his defense. We're so excited about that, and we saw how that went. But so far, so good. I'd say even against Arizona State, I know that Arizona State put up a lot of yards on TCU. I think that was just because that defense was gassed toward the end. Like, they were out on the field for so long. And
you're dealing with one of the best wide receivers in the country. You're dealing with a dual threat quarterback. You're dealing with a good running. I mean, Arizona State's offense is tough to handle. So, yeah, especially when you couldn't run the ball and put them away. So, yeah,
which more on that later.
Definitely. And so, yeah, overall impressed with the defense. We'll kind of move over to the offense a little bit. Good to have Eric McAllister back. Oh, man. He is just a game changer. 4 catches, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Had that offensive pass interference call, which, again, egregious.
It's fake.
I mean, I'm not even sure. They're saying that he was setting a pick, basically, and I mean, he just kind of stopped. Like, it's not he didn't even make contact with him, really.
No, it was a bad call, and I'd say overall, this game was very poorly officiated on both sides. But on the TCU side, it was pretty egregious. That PI call that I mentioned earlier on Vernon Glover that set Colorado up at the 2 or 3 yard line right before Caden Salter threw the interception to Namdi was pretty egregious. It was just a really good. There was a lot of hand fighting on both sides, and then Glover was playing the ball like he wasn't trying. He was trying to break up the pass. He looked behind him. He went up and swatted the ball away. They called it PI. It was like it wasn't. Maybe it was one of those where you could have called it, but it wasn't egregious enough to throw a flag in that scenario, in my opinion. And then the McAllister one was pretty bad. There was also one where replay came down to review a call, whether a pass was caught or not, and it was so obvious that it wasn't, and we wasted like 5 minutes of our time reviewing it. It was a bad day from the Big 12 officiating crew, and Brett Yormark was in attendance, so hopefully.
I'm sure he did not appreciate the student section throwing stuff onto the field, but
listen, last time that happened, literally a PI call was reversed in the Texas-Georgia game. So, sorry, it worked last time. I'm going to do it again.
He set a precedent.
Yeah.
Even though it was in a different conference.
What are your thoughts on Big 12 refs wearing a big old hat that has the Big 12 logo on it?
It looks weird. I don't like it. Yeah. None of the other conferences do that.
No.
We don't see a Big 10 on their hat.
No. SEC?
No.
It's weird. And the Big 12 logo is not very aesthetically pleasing. I'll be the first to say it. Like on a hat, it's not the greatest logo for a hat.
I'm not repping Big 12 merch, so
we're not Rob Lowe in the Big 12.
Yeah. It's just not going to be me. I'm not going to, but anyways, back to the offense a little bit. So Joseph Manjack also turned in a nice game, 5 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown. And I think we talked about this last week. I think he's probably been the most consistent receiver for TCU. No gloves. It doesn't matter. Like, he's just rumbling and bumbling his way to solid games each week.
Literally rumbling and bumbling. There's a couple plays a game where he'll have a defender hanging by his shoelace and he'll just drag him for an extra 5 yards.
It's insane. I really like the physicality from Manjack.
I know he looks. I say this as a compliment. He looks like he just got out of a trailer park, ready to play ball, like ready to.
He's ready to go.
Fight. And he's playing really good ball right now. And he caught the game-winning touchdown in this game. Broke off, he was held, reached out with one hand, caught the football, really good catch, no glove, just raw dogging the ball, like just out there with no equipment other than his pads and his helmet.
It's just straight vibes, ready to go. We love to see that. We any good vibes is worth mentioning here on the show.
Absolutely.
It's worthy of being recognized, and Manjak's got all of that. Okay, Josh Hoover, 23 of 33, 275 yards, 5 total touchdowns, no picks. Your assessment of Josh Hoover?
Better game than last game for sure. I thought that he was making sharp throws. He wasn't overthrowing the ball as much as he had been the last 2 games against SMU and Arizona State. It's more on target. Helped that there wasn't a guy in his face every single second. The offensive line, I thought, played a little bit better in terms of pass protection in this game. Helped that McAllister was back and healthy too, have another weapon to go to. I thought it was a good game from Hoover. Obviously, 4 touchdown passes is pretty cool. And he continues to just rack up the stats in that department. 8.3 yards per attempt too. TCU is throwing it down the field. And that is obviously has been something that's been consistent throughout the season and throughout Kendall Briles' time coaching Josh Hoover. But as I just got to say, it's encouraging and really fun to watch an offense that actually is not afraid to throw it over the middle of the field, to, just run plays that are a little bit more aggressive, because I watched Penn State play UCLA, and Penn State on the last play of the game ran a swing pass. So it's just like TCU ain't doing that. They're going to run 4 verts because it's fun. And that's I like it. I like having a gunslinger at quarterback. And he's been a lot more mobile too. He had some really big plays on that final drive of the game where he ran outside the pocket and scrambled for first downs to keep the clock churning and force Colorado to burn timeouts. I don't think Hoover was doing that last year. He's been a lot more aggressive with his legs this season, and that's been really fun to see.
It's added a different element to his game. That 3rd and 8, I think, in the red zone, ran for it. I don't think Josh Hoover does that last year. He might try to look for a guy or throw it out of the back of the end zone, but he saw a lane and took it, got the first down. So it's nice to see that he's able to use his legs a little bit more. Mentioned the 23 completions, 11 different guys caught a pass from Josh Hoover. It's pretty wild how TCU is able to spread it out and get the ball to different guys. Now, Nate Palmer had 1 catch for 1 yard, and a lot of these guys only had 1 catch. But, hey, that's like, Ed Small had 1 catch for 11 yards. It's just small stuff like that makes the difference in a game. And you're right. I mean, it is fun to have an offense that's willing to throw it down the field. Obviously, we can't run the ball right now, and we'll get to that after this. But it's fun when we've seen it's a problem with a lot of college football programs in the Big Ten, the SEC. They can't move the ball down the field. Their offense is inept. And Josh Hoover and Kendall Briles are spearheading an offense that isn't afraid to take the deep shot. And they have the guys that can make those kind of plays. It didn't matter that you lost Jack Besh and Savion Williams and JP Richardson. Perfect. We'll bring in Joseph Manjak. We'll bring in Jordan Dwyer, and they're going to make plays. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we've got Eric McAllister as well. And when he's healthy and on the field, it's a whole different dynamic, and it's a lot of fun. We are having a lot of fun watching this gunslinging offense. There's just a couple other things they just got to clean up.
Yes, for sure. I'm trying to, because I know we're transitioning into our talk about the run game and the negative parts of the offense. I'm trying to find. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have no numbers on this. This is just anecdotally. But I think you would agree with me, and I think any of our listeners or viewers who have watched all of the TCU games would agree with me on this in my assessment here. TCU's success on early downs is not great. If you watch just the highlights of the Colorado TCU game, which I have watched the full game, I've watched the highlights really exhibit this. A lot of TCU's big plays are coming on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, blah, blah, blah. Or 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 10, because they can't be successful for some reason on first down. And that sets them up. And right now, in the game against Colorado, it didn't bite them in the butt. Like they were, where's the stat? They were 7 for 15 on 3rd down and 2 for 3 on 4th. Like, that's not that bad, considering that half the time they were in 3rd and long. And that goes back to they're not afraid to chuck it downfield. They have really creative ways of getting receivers open for like 15, 20-yard gains. And they also have guys that are really good after the catch. So even if they throw it 5 yards downfield, Chase Curtis, a tight end, made a guy miss in the open field for a big 3rd down conversion in the middle of this game. It's just one of the examples that I thought of at the top of my head. But still, we know it's not sustainable, because I watched the Arizona State game, and Arizona State is better than Colorado. And whenever they got TCU into 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, they'd pin their ears back, rush the passer, and Hoover had no time. So it's one of those things where it's going to come back to bite you, and it could come back to bite you as early as Saturday at 2:30 p.m. in Manhattan, Kansas. So that's got to be figured out for sure. And that goes back to the run game. You can't consistently get a 5-yard gain on first down with your backs. It's just not good.
It's all very good points there, Seth. And it was great to have Kavorian Barnes back. Didn't help a ton, but at least when there was room to run, it looked much better than what we had seen against Arizona State. Like, at least there was some semblance of like, okay, Kavorian Barnes is definitively the best running back in this room. He just doesn't have a lot of room to run. It's rough, and it's like you said, it's going to come back to haunt you. It didn't in this game, but we can't be having our leading rusher run for 48 yards with 16 carries. They averaged, what'd you say, 2.7 yards per carry?
2.7 yards per carry. And they ran it 35 times. Yeah. Which, props to, what's it called? The offense for at least, leaning into that. But it still wasn't very successful. And I think them, being more reliant on it in this game helped open up some passing, some play action pass game and whatnot. But man, I can't get the Arizona State game out of our head. 0.4 yards per rush against Arizona State. Like I just know that there's better defensive lines in this conference. TCU's going to play. One of them is Kansas State, I'd say. Iowa State's coming up. Cincinnati's coming up. BYU's coming up. Luckily, TCU doesn't have to play Tech, because that would be terrible. I think, at least. Obviously, we're projecting, but it's a bad run game right now, and it has been for 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's got to be something that's fixed. I don't even think they need like they don't even need a crazy good running game. Like, we don't need like consistently 100 yards rushing. They just need like something that's what's like competent, like literally mediocre, like something in the middle, not one of the worst in the Big 12. It's got to be better than that. And so this doesn't need to be the core of this offense. It's not going to be, but it needs to be better. And TCU is going to fall behind, and that they might be okay because they can sling it. But if they get ahead and they need to close out a game, they were able to do that against Colorado with about a little over 2 minutes left. They're able to seal it away with the touchdown. But like you said, it's not going to be a guarantee against much better competition, because let's face it, Colorado's not a great team. They're not, and it's going to get tougher than this. But
I think
I don't want
Colorado's
to.
no, sorry. I think
Yeah, I was
Colorado's
gonna
probably
say I
better than a
don't.
record, but
Yeah,
not great. Bottom half of the Big 12 for sure.
yeah, they're not. They've got some players, but it's nothing great. And um, now I can't remember
Oh, sorry.
what I
I'm
was
sorry. I
gonna say.
apologize.
No, it's okay. Shoot, go ahead.
Yeah, you're right though, right? It's gonna come back and get you. When I don't know, but it did last year. Earlier on in the schedule when TCU played some tougher teams. Not even when TCU played tougher teams, when they played crappy teams, the UCF game. And that's actually, if I want to spin this to encouraging, I'm encouraged by the fact that they got the ball back with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left. Colorado had all 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. They iced it away. Now they did go for it on a 4th down. And I think that surprised Colorado that they even snapped the ball because Eric McAllister was wide open in the end zone.
But oh gosh, what? You snapped it?
But they were able to run the clock out enough to where even if they didn't get that first down, Colorado would have 16 seconds left to go 25 yards, or not 25, to go 75 yards with no timeouts, which is a lot better than how it would have been handled last year, where they would have been stuffed to the line 3 times in a row, and then Colorado would have got the ball back with 1 minute 58 seconds, no timeouts, and probably would have scored. So that is encouraging to me that they were able to find ways. And one of the ways they were able to do that was Josh Hoover using his legs to get 10, 11-yard gains because the run game wasn't open. And those were scrambles that were not planned or designed. Those were just broken down pass plays that he decided to run with. But he doesn't do that last year, and that's encouraging to me.
It is. And so it's great to see Josh Hoover being able to do that. And look, I don't, it's important to talk about the negatives because, like I said, this was not a perfect win. Sonny Dykes, I can guarantee you he was not he was happy with the win, but there's definitely room for improvement. At the end of the day, they are 4-1. The quality of their wins, we'll see. SMU is their best win so far, but we'll see how they pan out. And they'll have other opportunities to prove that they can beat quality opponents. And, I said last week I was interested to see how TCU would respond. And are they going to come out and play with their food? Or are they going to go out and dominate? They kind of play with their food a little bit, but they did enough to win this game. And I think there was enough positives where I feel okay with how things went. It doesn't feel like to me that it was just a bad win. Like it was, for the most part, pretty, things were going right. It's just Colorado was able to hang around, and credit to them.
A very similar game game script to how Colorado opened last week against BYU. They went up 14-0, and then the BYU won by a field goal. And because Colorado is bad, or not bad. I don't think they're bad. I think Colorado has good players. I just think that they've played some tough teams. They played Georgia Tech, BYU, and TCU. They lost all 3 of them. Yeah. So it's that's tough. That's a tough schedule, I think. But I have a couple more negatives, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
First one, when I thought this game was going to go off the rails, and I knew that we were in for one, was TCU went for it TCU got the ball first. They went for it on 4th down, didn't convert. Colorado got the ball back, threw a pick. Jim L. Johnson, great pick. TCU gets down to the 1-yard line on 1st and goal and doesn't score. Nate McCashlin misses a field goal from 30 yards out. Bad. And that goes back to can't run the ball, right? You get stuffed at the goal line 3 times in a row. Then also goes to, we have a kicking problem in Fort Worth. They clearly do not trust McCashlin right now to kick, because if they did, they would have sent him out there with 16 seconds left to make it a 2-score game from the 22-yard line. Instead, they sent the offense back out there to try and score a touchdown.
That's not good.
Unless Sonny bet on the game and wanted to cover the spread. That's the only, and I'm not accusing him of doing that. That's the only answer for why you wouldn't just kick a field goal there. It would have been a 30. It would have been around a 40-yard field goal, which usually you usually want to send your kicker out there and you trust him to make that 8 times out of 10. But you miss a 30-yarder, and I don't know if they trust him right now to do that.
Luckily, we have not had to use him at all, really, because Kyle Lemmerman got hurt after week 1. Week 2, we scored all touchdowns. Week 3, 5 touchdowns.
He did miss a field goal against SMU.
He did
miss it. Yeah.
He missed one against SMU. I think against Arizona State, he
made one.
He went 1 for 1. It was a 27-yarder. And then, so luckily we haven't had to depend on him for field goals, but I think you're right, Seth. I don't think they go for it if they felt confident that he can make that field goal.
Because it makes a 2-score game. Like, if he makes it, the game's
really
over.
A reason to go for it other than the fact you're not super confident in your kickers. So, I don't know. Is Kyle Lemmerman supposed to come back this year? Don't know.
We do not know.
No. So it could be an issue for sure.
The best way to get around a kicker problem in college is to score touchdowns. So that's Arizona State had a terrible kicking situation last year where they essentially just went for 2 half the time because they had a bad kicking situation. So, and they made the playoff and won the conference. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely not ideal. Iowa State this past weekend was down their kicker and their backup kicker, and it definitely played a role. Iowa State was bullied, but it definitely played a role down the stretch that they had to go for it so many times instead of kicking field goals to chip into that lead.
Yeah. Were there any other thoughts that you had about this game?
Good win. I'd say all wins are good wins. That's my stance. Caden Salter is wild, man. Like, that is a wild watch. I think Colorado is going to be playing a lot of close games this year. I think that they are not bad because they've lost 4 games by a combined 14 points or whatever. But I don't think they're going to make a bowl, but I think they're just going to be in a lot of close games. Let me look at their schedule. Because I already mentioned that it's been a gauntlet for them already. They get Iowa State this next week, Utah, Arizona, West Virginia, Arizona State, Kansas State. So it definitely doesn't get easier. But yeah, I think Dion is a better coach than I think we gave him credit for, especially given the other kind of wacko hire that's happened in college football and how that's going. I think he's built a pretty good culture there. They play hard. They play really hard, and that's difficult to do, I think, in a transfer portal era where like you kind of have mercenaries coming out, and that's a credit to him and his coaching staff. And I think that they are better than people are giving them credit for, but obviously not as good as they were last year.
It's like, again, Colorado was completely irrelevant for this entire century. I mean,
yeah,
they've been really, really bad. They've been one of the worst teams in the Power 4, Power 5 for a long time. And so it's a process, and he's made them relevant, and they're playing disciplined and good football. They just, it's tough. It's not easy to build a program that's overnight.
They were 1-11 the year before he got there. They went 4-8 that year that he got hired, and then they went 9-4 last year or something like that. So I mean, sure, he had the Heisman winner and he had Shedeur too, so like that's a pretty good built-in thing, but that's a whole lot better than the other clown show in Chapel Hill right now. So it's
exactly
that to me, and I don't want to. I know we've joked on the show before. We're gonna have a UNC minute check on what's going on in Chapel Hill. That win does not look as good as it was 5 weeks ago.
The way that TCU won was impressive, but the quality of the opponent was not. Yes. They're bad, and it just shows that just because you hire somebody that obviously it's been just egregious for UNC, and that era with Bill Belichick's going to probably end a lot sooner than anyone anticipated.
Well, I want to spin it back from a TCU side of things. I think Sonny Dykes has done a pretty good job. They've relied not too heavy, like this roster is not transfer portal heavy. I think there was only there wasn't that many transfers.
Jack, Dwyer.
Yeah, there was some, reloading in position groups, and some on the offensive line, but the defense is pretty steady and whatnot. It's not 70 new players coming in or whatever, and heck, not even 30. Worse than it's 30, but when he got here, they brought in some transfers, and they all bought in. Bud Clark was a transfer. Josh Newton was a transfer. Johnny Hodges. All those players were transfers, and they bought in to the message, and it resulted in one of the best seasons in TCU history. Texas Tech, that roster is filled to the brim with new players, whether it's freshmen or transfers. They're bought into the message, right? And that culture is really good. Colorado, last year, right? A lot of new players bought into the message. Then there's UNC. They got 70 new players. The culture is a mess. So therefore, this team is not performing well. That's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why they're not cohesive. And I just credit to Sonny Dykes for being able to, even in this transient roster building era, he has been able to consistently build a winner. I know 2023 was not good, but 2 out of the 3 years he's been here, they've made a bowl and played good football for the most part. And so far, that's continuing this year.
It is. And I know people like to hate on Sonny Dykes. I usually defend him a little bit more than most, but he deserves a ton of credit. He's started to develop a winning culture here, and it was it very well could have been a hire that could have gone south pretty fast, but it's worked out really well for TCU, and they have developed pro players and gotten guys to stay, which is a big thing. We haven't seen a ton of guys leave. We've seen quarterbacks leave, but that's common. That happens. There's only one starting quarterback, so if a lot of players, if you're not going to start, they'll just leave. So that stuff happens. We've had a couple other guys leave, but for the most part, they've bought in, and that says a lot about your program if they're staying and not just jumping ship.
And listen, right? I've seen a lot of the complaints about him too, especially after 2023 and last year's start. But let's think about it this way. Let's take 2022 out. Let's say that 2022 doesn't happen, and 2023 is Sonny Dykes' first season. TCU goes 5-7 in 2021. They would go 5-7 in Sonny Dykes' in this hypothetical scenario, his first season. I think you're fine with that because it's his first year. Expectations aren't high. TCU teams from 2019 to 2021 were mediocre to bad. And then 2023, you go his second season, he goes 9-4, definitely a step up. And now he's going 4-1 in his, in this season. The expectations were set so high because of what he did, the awesomeness of 2022. But if you take that out of the equation, he's on this a normal track record for a rebuilding, reloading program that kind of had entered the dark ages a little bit.
Yeah, and surpassing expectations. I mean, guys, we're not going to the national championship every single year. It's just not going to happen, and it's not going to happen for a long time. But TCU has played competitive football. I get the frustration that there was at the beginning of last year. We all were frustrated, but they've turned it around and they've looked good. And 4-1 to start this year, it's a good start, and they'll look to keep it going.
Doesn't get easier. I'd say this is a with how the schedule's played out in front of them. I know the K-State game is not as daunting as it once used to be, but that's a team that could definitely play good football. I mean, they almost beat Baylor this past weekend. Cincinnati looks a lot better than we thought they were going to be. BYU undefeated. Iowa State, I know they just lost to Cincy, but that's still a good football team. I think Baylor's got a lot of grit. Sawyer Robertson, obviously, we're kind of fans of Sawyer Robertson on this podcast, so he's a good player, and so it's a tough schedule, and TCU's going to be battle tested if they get out of it. And I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Very excited. Again, this Saturday, they will be taking on the Kansas State Wildcats. And look, K-State struggled this year. We're going to have a preview, hopefully with a special guest joining us. We're trying to coordinate that right now. We'll be previewing this K-State game. TCU has struggled in Manhattan, so this is not something you want to take lightly. They have been just not even struggling is like putting it nicely. It's been
almost a decade since they won there.
Yeah, it's been egregious. So not going to take this one lightly, hopefully, and we're excited to talk about it. But again, TCU defeating Colorado 35-21 at home. They pick up their first Big 12 conference win, go to 4-1 overall. Looking to keep it going this weekend. But yeah, that'll wrap things up here for this episode of Believe in TCU. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dattle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys later in the week.